Sports, an area of interest for many, is an incredible source to portray soft power. An instrument to achieve social, political, and financial goals, sports provide a steady platform for countries to showcase their tradition. The focus on culture and peaceful values in sports makes it a useful tool for countries to use soft power to achieve international goals and improve their public diplomacy. Importantly, it provides a platform for trust building, reconciliation, and integration. I would like to welcome Mr. Rajaraman ji, former advisor Media, Sports Authority of India. Mr. Rajaraman is a unique sports communication professional with more than 39 years' experience across diverse platforms. He has held leadership positions for nearly two-thirds of this time in organizations like The Pioneer, Hindustan Times, cricketnext.com, espnstar.com, iplT20.com, gocricket.com, and circleofsport.com. He has learned a lot from his extensive travels to cover the Olympic Games, Asian Games, Cricket World Cup tournaments, the World Athletics Championships, and other sports assignments. His greatest learnings have come from observing high-performance athletes and his interactions with them. His quest for learning continues. Besides pursuing his passion for research and reading, he has acquired a certificate in coaching from Ericsson International, Vancouver, and completed a high-performance leadership program from the ELMS Foundation and the Abhinav Bindra Foundation. And while he sustains his passion for learning, he is also always ready to share his knowledge. He has conducted numerous leadership and communication workshops for corporates and athletes, having worked with leading brands and organizations. Besides, he has been a popular guest on sports shows on several TV channels and on All India Radio for more than 2 decades. Since 2021, he has been engaged as advisor media by the Sports Authority of India, the field arm of the Union Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. In this role, he helped SAI to change the narrative and create a positive image of the government's support to India's elite athletes in their preparation for major international competitions. I invite Rajaraman sir to deliver a few words.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me here. First of all, I thought when Smita ma'am and Gopi sir got in touch with me, I thought they were making a mistake. Why would they call me? Why would they want me to be talking about soft power? And I was thrilled also at the same time, because I know that somebody is thinking about sport as soft power. So thank you, Gopi sir. Thank you, Smita ma'am. And where are you, Rishikesh? Thank you so much for what you have done for all of us. Like I told you before, a good leader with a good team. So can I make a request to all of you, please? Can you please clap for Rishikesh and his team? I don't have a fancy presentation. I'm very happy to be conversing, but Rishikesh, being the hard taskmaster that he is, insisted on a presentation. So there it is for you. But before I even click on this, would you know who, other than the President of India, can get the Indian flag high up in an overseas land? It's only an athlete, right? Can you think of anybody else? Can Mr. Amitabh Bachchan get the flag up, or can Shah Rukh Khan get flag up? Can Mammootty get the flag up? When an athlete goes on to win a medal for the country, he gets the Indian flag up. There is no tougher soft power than sport. There is no better soft power than sport. I could be wrong. A lot of people will debate this. But just to see the Indian flag go up is, I can tell you from first-hand experience, is a marvelous feeling altogether, especially when you're overseas and you're thirsting to see the flag go up and maybe even hear the national anthem. This is what sport does, and I'm glad that I can talk today about what sport can do to all of us. Let me also start with some good news today, being the news person that I am. This one, right? Okay. So why is he on our screen today? Would any of you know why I put him up first up? Yes, sir. Absolutely. To have pipped Usain Bolt, one of the legends of Olympic sport, one of the legends of track and field sport, to have pipped him as the most written about athlete in the year 2022, right? So this is great news. This is what power does. More people have heard about India. Of course, India is a very popular nation, respected nation. But more people have heard about India thanks to this boy. He won the gold medal in the Olympic Games last year. He won the silver medal in the World Championship. This picture I shot in the World Championship in Oregon this year. And he won the Diamond League. So nobody has done more for India, with all due respect to politicians, educationists, film stars, musicians, dancers, what have you. This boy has done more for India than most have. All of you are familiar with what Joseph Nye has said about soft power. I'm not going to read this. Everybody knows that soft power is about wanting other countries to do what you want them to do. But of late, and after Smita ma'am insisted that I come here, I also started reading up a little bit about soft power and what it really is, even though I've been part of the soft power system for many years without knowing it. Now, when you read, you discover new things. From the morning we have been told, I think the Commodore told us that please read. And he has a very valid point. Every time you read, you learn something new. So I learned something new about this, that this definition that came about in the year 1990 has changed a little bit. Even the US is moving away from this definition of Joseph Nye. The Chinese have challenged us. They've started talking about not wanting to force any country to want to be like them, but they have started influencing the world in more ways than we can imagine. Talk about Sri Lanka, talk about the port that they're building there. You know that the Chinese are winning the soft power game, maybe more than the Americans did all those years ago. And they are relevant. So that brings me to the point that India must start defining soft power in its own way. I can't find an Indian definition. I hope some young minds, some veterans here, will push governments to understand what soft power is. We've had the Prime Minister speak very recently about how sport is soft power. But to my mind, a lot of thinking in the political circles is stuck in the 1990s. We haven't understood what soft power can be. The Chinese have learned, and they are our biggest competition at this point of time. You need to evolve your own definition of what soft power is and try and use everything possible to win more hearts around the world. I'll come to cricket. 2004, the Indian cricket team went to Pakistan after a long gap. The Prime Minister then was Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He called Saurav Ganguly and told him that no matter what you do, whether you win or lose, please win hearts. Dil jeet ke aana. Win hearts in Pakistan. Now, this was soft power. But when cricket is not, right now, for example, we are converted that into very hard power. We don't go to Pakistan and play cricket there. We don't encourage their team to come and play here because we have the belief that Pakistan has used some of the money for the wrong purposes. So we are using sport as a hard power sometimes. So we really need to understand and define sport as a soft power. Not just sport, but all of soft power. I think India needs to find its own definition and pursue that goal. We had so many chances. We just heard Anushtup talk about how our education in 600 BC was most sought after. Yoga, nobody knows when yoga came into being. It's come back to us from the West. Many people in the West have embraced it, and I think in India we still hesitate to take to yoga. But it needs to be in competitive form for us to make a big claim around the world. We don't take ownership on yoga. It's only in the last 7-8 years that we've started talking about it, especially after the Prime Minister's got the UN to give us an International Yoga Day, June 21st. We have some amazing martial arts. Where I am standing and where we are is the home of Kalaripayattu. But outside of Kerala, how many people even try Kalaripayattu. There is something similar in Tamil Nadu. There is Silambam. There is something similar in Manipur called Tangta. And there is something very similar in Punjab called Gatka. India has made zero attempt to bring all of this together under one roof, have a competition, and see whether we can take this to the world. Judo, Taekwondo, Wushu, all of these sports, karate, kung fu, all this have come to us from the west, from the far eastern countries. We have done zero to even make Kalaripayattu go beyond Kerala. I think the time has come for us to wake up and say, we will take some of this sport and maybe even start with a national martial arts games. Instead of doing national games, instead of doing Khelo India and fitting Kalaripayattu and Tangta as part of that, have a unique martial arts games so that it can be on television and it can get embedded in the minds of everyone who is watching television. Our Olympic performance is nothing to speak about. Does anybody know how many medals we have got in the last 120 years of Olympic sport? We have 35. 8 hockey gold medals, 1 for Abhinav Bindra in shooting and 1 for Neeraj Chopra the last time. 10 gold medals is all we have got. We have 9 silver medals and the rest are bronze medals. 35 medals in a century and more. So we can't go around like the US did all those years ago and say that, look, we are celebrating Olympic sport. So we've been left behind there. And we have this amazing game, Kabaddi and Kho-Kho, 2 very athletic sport in our country, where we can say that we own the sport. It's not like cricket or hockey, which has come to us from the British. It is not like football, which has come to us from Britain. Kabaddi and Kho-Kho have evolved in India. They took birth in India, they've evolved in India. But what have we done? Have we gone and sold Kabaddi to the rest of the world? At the moment, there are 49 countries that play Kabaddi. I know some Kenyans are in Pro Kabaddi League. There are some Iranians who come and play fantastic Kabaddi. They beat us in the Asian Games the last time. But we have done zero to promote Kabaddi as our sport and to make it a soft power. We are still learning. We have used Kabaddi now in Kashi. At the Tamil Sangamam, they're having a couple of matches where Pro Kabaddi League players are there. We are still using sport as a soft power within our country. We have not used Kabaddi outside of India yet. I know it's a grim picture that I paint. So have we missed the bus completely? As I said, Olympic performance is not something that we can crow about. No other Indian sport has caught the fancy of the world. We celebrate Manchester United. We celebrate Real Madrid. How many of us are great fans of Real Madrid here? There, how many hands go up? At least 5, 7 I can see. How many of us are fans of Mohammedan Sporting? 0. Right? That tells us where we are. That tells us of how the West has won us. There is no training center. There was a time where the NIS Patiala was a premier training center. People from Pakistan, Sri Lanka, maybe Thailand would come and train there. But it has been left behind. Nobody ever comes there now. A handful of Indian athletes go and train there. We need to really upscale this and ensure that a training center, which is like a school, can be used as a very powerful medium to explain what India is all about, what Indian culture is all about. We haven't done that. Yoga, I have already told you where we are. It has grown organically. Only in the last 7 years or so, we've started making some noise, taking ownership of what yoga is all about. Right. Influencer is a big word. I think soft power and influence goes hand in hand. So can India still be an influencer, or should we stand back and watch the rest of the world go past us? I believe, as Anushtup said, I'm an optimist. As he said himself, about himself, he's an optimist. I don't believe in pessimism. I believe there's a great opportunity. Every time we have missed the bus, there's another one coming for us. So India is not too far behind. We have understood that sport is a soft power. What is it that India can do in the next few months, in the next few years, to take sport to the level to which Raj Kapoor was all those years ago in Russia and in parts of Africa. You go to other countries, you go to Germany, Shah Rukh Khan is really big there. My wife's traveled there and she has been asked about Shah Rukh Khan so many times. So when we have got an athlete, when we've got a team, when we've got a sport that people talk about outside of India, that is when truly sport will have arrived as a soft power. I believe that if we can hold proper competitions for yoga, I have seen them come together in the National Youth Games and in the National Games recently held in Ahmedabad. Yoga is beginning to be seen as competitive sport. It is not just what you practice at home. It is how you can combine athleticism with flexibility and show to the world that it can be a competitive sport. If India can take the lead, then you've got a winning product on hand. I think there's a lot of effort going towards hosting the Olympic Games in 2036 in Gujarat. If we can succeed in doing that, we believe that we can exercise sport as a soft power. But I'm not so sure that hosting games is the best idea. It worked for a few countries. It worked for China in 2008 for sure. I think they were just coming out and they were showing to the world what they can do. 2008 was a milestone for Olympic sport in China, and for China as well, it was fantastic. But I wonder if we can achieve that status in 2036, because all other countries, the BRICS countries, which are supposed to be the second level, you've seen Olympic Games in Russia, you've seen Olympic Games in China, you've seen Olympic Games in Brazil as well, and we would perhaps be the last in the queue. Hopefully in 2036 we will host it, but I think we should not peg our expectations too high and think that we can use it to influence the rest of the world. This is what I really believe that this young lot can do. Start believing that sports science, if you can invest some time and energy understanding what sports science can do to enhance performance, you will then help scientists establish very good sports science centers. And that can be a huge power for India. This is one of the solutions that I would like to offer here today, that we are behind in sports science, but we can learn, we are great learners, and we can invest in sports science labs across the country. Abhinav Bindra has started the process already. If we can do that, we might attract a lot of foreign students to come into India and learn sports sciences, because education is a lot more affordable in India than it is in the West. And I think India can really compete with the best in the world. But for that, you need to invest. You need to understand what sports science can do and get the best people to come and set up organizations here that can help. Some of you can take the lead in doing better fantasy sport. Everybody would have played Dream 11. How many played Dream 11 here? Cricket? 1, 2, 3. Just a handful, but it's a rage. Dream 11 is a rage. Nearly everybody who knows a little bit of cricket has started playing Dream 11. Not saying it's the best solution, but fantasy sport offers you an opportunity to invest, to take leadership positions sooner than later, and go to the world. I think when you go to the world and you leverage the manpower that we've got and the technology skills that we've got, I think we can then conquer the world with our wonderful hearts. We've got ability, but I think we invest. Our best technology is out in the West. The best technological minds are out in the West. We need to bring them back here. Maybe you can evolve and find the right kind of people to ensure that you have this. I will finish with just a couple of stories to establish how strong sport can be as a soft power and how we can use it, how every Indian who steps out of India to play for India, to coach Indian teams, or even journalists like me. I'll give you my own example. This was the year 2004. We were in Pakistan, the same tour that Prime Minister Vajpayee told Saurav Ganguly to win hearts. We didn't have that privilege of meeting the Prime Minister before we left for Pakistan. It was a great tour. India won the one-day series. It won the test matches as well for the first time in many, many years. In fact, for the first time, with Sehwag scoring a triple hundred. I was in Karachi and a friend of mine who was the media manager said, Raj, get ready, we'll need to go to the PTV station, Pakistan television station tonight, and I'll come and pick you up. I said, okay, what time? Let me know and I will be ready. He said, I will come at 11:30 p.m. and our show will start at 12 and will go on till 3. I said, are you mad? There is a match on tomorrow and you're saying 12:30. Who's going to watch a 12 o'clock midnight show? Believe me, we took some 90 calls on the live show. And after the show, we were told that there were 3,000 calls that came through. They jammed the board because 2 Indians were sitting on the panel and all questions were, so what are you writing about Pakistan? Are you writing good things? Are you writing negative stuff? Will you come and have a cup of tea with us? Come and have breakfast with us? That is the power of sport. I mean, I'm a nobody. I'm not the captain of the Indian team. I'm not the coach of the Indian team. But when they see me on television, all they're asking is, are you telling the right stories? And that is the power of sport. The other little story I have got, which is, again, what we need to do to understand what sport can do, how sports can offer lessons to people, and how it can make us better, comes from, again, personal experience, meeting Sachin Tendulkar. If anybody doesn't want to hear a story on Tendulkar, please tell me, I'll step down. This was a boy who was 20 years old when I interviewed him. He was just 20. We all know how many hundreds he finished with when he stopped playing for India. He got 100 hundreds, right? International centuries. I interviewed him when he had got only 5 test match centuries. And I interviewed in my hometown of Hyderabad. Small stadium, small dressing room. My rule is that I don't go into the dressing room because it is the player's sanctum sanctorum. I don't like to step into their domain. So I met him just outside the dressing room. He sat on a steel box which is meant to cool Coke or Pepsi bottles. So he sat on that and I was writing my notes. I didn't have a dictaphone on me then. So he said 15 minutes. And I was very grateful that a young boy who's caught the world by storm was giving me 15 minutes of his time. So my 4th or 5th question to him was, when you score 100, are you happy or satisfied? Now, it's a very ordinary question. He took 3 minutes to answer that. He was biting his fingernails. I could hear the sound of ball hitting bat. I could hear people appealing for wicket. I could hear a handful of spectators clap. But this boy is stone silent. It's almost he was not there. The only movement is that of his chewing his fingernails. Then after 3 minutes, he looks up and says, I'm happy. I said, oh yeah, I like that, man. 3 minutes of silence and you're giving me 3 words. I am happy. So I'm going to extend the duration of our interview. I'm greedy. Can I exceed it to 20? He said, no, I was preparing the answer to your next question. That is why I was silent. Remarkable, right? For someone who's 20. So I said, okay, tell me what my next question would have been and please answer it for me. He said, you're going to ask me why I'm happy and not satisfied. So I said, great question, yeah. I wouldn't have thought about it, but please answer that question now. So he says, happiness and satisfaction. Now I'm paraphrasing, not his exact words. Happiness and satisfaction are 2 states of the mind. They're both similar. But I'm happy because I got to 100, which is a milestone. Every time I set out to play the innings, the scoreboard shows 0. I have to run, complete 100 runs. My partners have to run with me. And therefore I'm happy. When I get to that milestone, I haven't got to it every time. Nobody gets to it every time. So I'm very thrilled when I get to 100 because it's a good milestone to be. I said, then why not satisfied? He said, he didn't take time. He said, satisfaction would mean that I've played the perfect innings. It means that I have forgotten I've played and missed a few deliveries, or I have edged a catch to slips and the wicketkeeper and slips have dropped a catch, or I've hit the ball really hard to deep extra cover. Instead of taking 3, I've taken only 2 runs. How can I be satisfied? I have not played the perfect innings. Then very dramatic, about 5 seconds of silence. Then he does this action where he pulls the handbrake of the car. He says, you pull the handbrake of the car, engage the car in gear. He used to have a Maruti 800, the first first editions, didn't have a floor shift. It had a gear that was attached to the steering wheel. So he did this. He said, satisfaction is like the handbrake of the car. You pull the handbrake, then engage the car in gear, it doesn't move anywhere. Now, I did not understand the import of what he told me then. It took me many months to understand the significance of what he told me. It was an amazing lesson in life that he gave me, where he said that don't be satisfied because you've got more work to do. That perfection is an eternal quest. There's nothing like having achieved perfection. Every time you can improve, you can add more layers to your personality. Now, significantly, when he had got 9600s, he was in Delhi, he got his 9700. Indian Express had a headline the next morning. And I'm not going to give anybody any prizes for guessing that he said, I'm happy but not satisfied. This is what made him great. This is what made him the cricketer that he was. This is what made him the person that he is. The quest for perfection was eternal. He never satisfied in all those years of playing cricket for India. Now, when I tell this story, I'm actually using a soft power. Not that of my storytelling skills, but of telling you that sport can influence people into believing that perfection is never attained. You can keep walking toward perfection, and that you can't ever pull the handbrake of your life. I end this here because I wanted to leave you with this Tendulkar story, to ruminate, to think about it, and then to ensure that you can use some of the lessons that you've learnt from Tendulkar in the 5 minutes that I spent on telling you his story. There are many more stories that we learn from athletes around the world, especially Indian athletes. They're remarkable, some of them. Someone like an Abhinav Bindra has got his own lessons. Geet Sethi offers his own lessons. Kerala's own PT Usha and Anju Bobby George will have their lessons. We just have to listen to them and use them to influence the world. I think we read a lot of books and stories from the West. We celebrate the Ronaldos and Messis. We need to celebrate our own heroes, and we need to start exporting their stories outside of India. So thank you very much once again for giving me a patient hearing. Yes, sir. See, he's setting examples.
Yeah, so my question is about urban planning. So now when we build cities these days, and the way cities are developing, I don't see, big playgrounds or spaces where people can play football or any sport for that matter. So for example, my children grew up in Retimudai campus where they were used to playing in big fields. And after coming to Kochi, the first problem I faced as a parent was they are crying that, father, where should I go and play? And when I look around, very few spaces I can find in the nearby vicinity. So as a sports related person who has been working with government, what advice you will give and what kind of soft power you can exercise to convince the city planners to accommodate the needs of the children to play. His question also, one of the reasons why students are not coming to play because they're not habituated to playing. Maybe of lack of spaces in their cities where they grew up for playing. So once one gets a feel for playing, they continue playing. So I myself was a very active child, as a child, playing a lot of games. So can you throw some light about that? Is there some thought process going on in the government?
I'll try the best I can. I don't know how many of you are from north of India, from above the Vindhyas. How many of you are from North India? Not very many. Okay. One example I give is of a singer called Mika Singh. Have you heard of Mika Singh? Who has heard of Mika Singh? Sir, we leave the professors out. There's one small hand that I see go up. What is it, the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Mika Singh? Don't be afraid, professor is not going to scold you. You think of Rakhi Sawant, right? There was an incident between the two of them. Lasted just 7 seconds, sir. That incident, when you time it, it's only 7 seconds. But TV channels kept showing it on loop. And it's embedded in our minds. So when you talk about Mika Singh, the first thing that comes is the 7-second video. We celebrate European football because we have indoctrinated India into thinking that European football is gold standard. It is gold standard. But if you're going to show me European football, NBA, Formula One racing, golf and tennis, 5 key sports that ESPN and Star Sports kept showing us, newspaper editors are watching only that on television. Their sons and daughters are watching only what is available on cable and satellite television. And therefore the editors come and tell sports editors, I'm speaking to you from first-hand experience, sir. Editors come and tell sports editors, what are you doing? Why are you not covering European football like the world is going to end if you don't cover it? So there was a time where a former India captain, Mohammad Azharuddin, would go on his bike, on a cycle, to the local newspaper office and give a block for printing. Now, of course, you can send them on mail, pictures on mail. When he got 100 for his school, he would prepare a block. I don't know how many of you have seen old-fashioned printing technology. You have for sure. So he would go to the Deccan Chronicle office and give his photo so that it could appear in the newspapers the next morning. And there would be a 6-column spread giving local scores. Today, national sport is not covered in our newspapers. I was talking to Suresh some time ago. There he is. And we got nostalgic about how in paddy fields in Kerala, you would see every time a harvest is done and it's dry, they would picture 2 poles and have a net and play volleyball. They would play basketball. I mean, Kerala is known for its track and field. Unfortunately, these young minds, if I ask this question now, they will not answer me honestly. I know that. Every single person in this room wearing a blazer of ABS will have watched European football. Sorry, Suresh, I'm taking a bit of time. Many years ago, they called me in the St. Stephen's College in Delhi, one of the prestigious institutions of the country, and said, why is India languishing at 108 or 110 in football? So I had a colleague called Novi Kapadia. Some of you will know him. He's no more. Great professor of English from the Khalsa College in Delhi. He died last year. God bless his soul. He was Mr. Football. He knew everything about Indian football, about European football, about Brazilian football. What he didn't know, nobody knows. So St. Stephen's says, the 2 of you will do the talking. I said, lovely, I'll come because it'll be great to hear Novi. So we were sitting on the podium. Very pretty girl announced 2 gentlemen, newspaper people have come and they're going to talk to us about Indian football and why it's languishing. Now, I heard her mention Novi Kapadia first. And I had got a note sheet like this with me. And every line of Novi Kapadia I was scoring off whatever I had written as research. And after 5 minutes, I had to do this and put it in my pocket. 5 minutes of Novi Kapadia is all it took to destroy my notes. And then I had to switch off because I'm feeling ashamed. I'm feeling very embarrassed. I said, oh, what am I going to tell this young mind? 150 bright scholars from St. Stephen's sitting in an auditorium and I don't have a word to say. So challenge for me. Soft power, right? So I said, think, and I didn't hear what Novi said for the next 15 minutes. Suddenly my name is mentioned. I have to go up to the podium. There's a whiteboard, luckily for me. I spot the whiteboard and I pick a marker and I say, let's play a game. Let's do a Hindu college versus St. Stephen College, which is a very popular rivalry in Delhi University. Let's do this football competition between these 2 teams. Let's raise some money for St. Stephen's College. So let's start with 2 managers. So I went into the audience, got people to answer who should be the manager, who should be the goalkeeper, who should be the back, who should be the center, and who should be the strikers, the halves and the strikers. So we put 24 names on the whiteboard, divided beautifully. Then I went back into the audience. I said, but something not right about this. All the 24 names, that is 22 players and the 2 coaches, all 24 names are European or Latin American. So why don't we put at least 1 Indian name? So this was around 2000, the year 2000. And so I came quickly, I said, give me a name. The whole house gave one name, Baichung Bhutia, because he was a star then. So I came and wiped off one striker's name and I wrote Baichung Bhutia. Wiped it off, wrote Michael Owen again. I said, no, the gap is so vast. Why don't we do one thing? We'll change the goalkeeper. So I removed the goalkeeper's name. I said, you had 16 names to give out of 24. Can you name the Indian goalkeeper? Arey, aap to bahut bol rahe the. You were saying a lot about, you had so many names to offer. How about giving me the Indian goalkeeper's name? For 3 minutes I played this game. Then I gave them a clue. I said, the Indian goalkeeper was on the field when a Brazilian player died. His leg hit his chest and he had a heart attack and the Brazilian player died on the field. This was in a match in India. I said, I can't give you a bigger clue than this. So the Brazilian player's name is Cristiano Jr. So give me the name of the goalkeeper. I went and wrote Subrata Paul after 3 minutes. And I said, that, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we are 108. You don't know the Indian goalkeeper's name. But worse has happened now. We don't ask our newspapers. We don't write to editors. We are too lazy to put a tweet even. Only about 2 weeks ago, I tweeted saying the one newspaper that I get at home did not cover the National Sports Awards, Arjuna Award and Dronacharya and Khel Ratna. Not a single line in the Times of India. I tweeted my protest and I said I will stop subscription. Until we start asking for this, until our boys and girls ask newspapers to start covering local sport, we are not going to see them in our media. We have failed. As media, we have failed because we haven't stood up to editors whose sons and daughters have come back from England and told us that you need to cover European football. We are passionate, but I believe this revolution, the digital revolution, has allowed us to start dreaming about Indian sport again, about it being covered. We don't depend on newspapers anymore. Sorry, Suresh, your domain altogether. But we've started depending less on newspapers and more on digital media. And we are getting there. We are getting there because athletes are having direct access to fans now through social media. And I think they're making the most of that. Thank you very much. This has been engaging. I learned a lot.
One last question.
Yes, please.
Do you think
Can you identify yourself so that all of us know your name?
Harishan, sir. So my question is, do you think the current education system is the reason behind the downfall of sports in our country?
Not really, because what is happening now is a lot of youngsters are taken, talented youngsters are taken by big industrial houses to play sport for them. They're taken in by Petroleum Sports Control Board or by railways. At 18 years of age, you get a job. It's not the education system alone that is to blame. It is how we have viewed sport. It is how we have seen sport as an appendage. She's not here. Shruti had the presentation, those pillars that she'd got. There was culture also, but there was no sport. Don't blame her. I don't blame the person who made that graphic. Sport is an appendage. Sport is an afterthought, but it's changing, and I'm so glad that it is changing. It's not the education system that is to blame. I think it's just our attitudes. But we have seen athletes make big money now. If you win a medal in the Commonwealth Games, you pick up 25 lakhs. And it takes journalists at least 2 years to get that 25 lakhs. So you just work hard. Everything is paid for by the government. Your training is looked after. Your competitive exposure is looked after. You're given the best coaches. You're looked after really well as an athlete today. So you go and win a medal for India, you still get 25 lakhs from your state or central government. So there is money. The reason why people have not taken to sport big time is they have not seen this money like in the past. Your generation missed out. But I think more and more parents are now pushing their kids to play sport, and because they see great revenue potential there.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enriching speech. I request Dr. Rajiv Prasad to hand over the memento to Mr. Rajaraman as a token of our gratitude.